Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and our continuing series on some of my favorite Dreamcast games of all time, and this one technically does not fall in that category whatsoever. I just wanted to show one game off that didn't come out for the Dreamcast that is really interesting and I just kind of felt like talking about, and that is ToeJam and Earl III. Granted, it did come out on the Xbox and it didn't review well, but I don't have any issues with the game. It's not the best thing in the world, but more ToeJam and Earl's always good to me. Before we get too far involved, if you could do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined, just like ToeJam just got that $1 there, we got a Patreon link if you want to support the channel. But I wish we had gotten this for Dreamcast, just to have another ToeJam and Earl game on a Sega platform, because when the original came out on the Sega Genesis, I was a kid, my parents bought it for me for Christmas, and I spent an inordinate amount of time playing ToeJam and Earl. I absolutely loved the game. Of course, the sequel came out, I got that, I think for my birthday, and it was nowhere near the same game. It was a completely different genre, and it was nowhere near as good. And I think that's the first time in my life that I was disappointed by a sequel because they changed things too much. It's definitely happened a lot since then, but I think ToeJam and Earl 2 was the first time as a kid I was disappointed. Now, I will say, changing levels and getting into this elevator can sometimes be a massive pain in the butt. You need to be standing in the perfect spot. And this game is not finished. It will freeze. And it will freeze randomly. I've gotten up to stage 15 before. On this playthrough, it froze when I tried to go into the elevator on stage 6. So even playing this game can be a little bit of a challenge, and you never know when it's just going to break on you. But to see another game that was supposed to come out for the Dreamcast get canceled and then finally leak, I love when that happens. I love looking into the background of things that were supposed to happen on consoles. Betas, prototypes, alphas, test demos, things like that are always fun to look at because you kind of see behind the curtain of game development. You get to check out what could have been. But what we have to talk about is what we have in front of us, and that is to say that ToeJam and Earl 3 is just a 3D version of the original game on the Genesis. It just feels like a modern reimagining of that classic. It functions the exact same way. We have an open world map and we have different levels to it. All we need to do to get to the next level is find the elevator. If you find the elevator in 30 seconds, you can just go past the entire level. Sometimes you have to continually search around and hunt for it, and that is a lot of the fun of the game. It's just how random the maps are, how much exploration there is, and then all the different presents you're going to get to be able to explore, because just like the original game, there are a ton of power-ups in this game that you can check out. But here again, we found the elevator and we can go to the next stage. Now, one thing that doesn't occur in this game that did in the original, and maybe it was supposed to be coded in and just wasn't done yet, is that if you fall off the edge, you don't fall down to the previous level. And that was always heartbreaking when you played the original game. You could lose a lot of progress. But you'll see here now, we're flying, something we could do in the original game. And that's always what I've loved about ToeJam and Earl. And what I really do like about this alpha or beta, whatever stage it was at, is just the sheer amount of power-ups that you can get. But just like Icarus, you don't want to be too foolhardy and not fly too close to the sun, but get someplace when your power-up runs out, because with a lot of power-ups in this game, they can aid you or they can totally screw you over. And this is an instance where I'm going to fly to a far-off island to see what's on it, and then I'm going to realize that I run out of my power-up and I am stuck there. So you definitely want to be careful, but that's something that you dealt with in the original ToeJam and Earl as well. You'll see here I land, and I almost fall off the edge, but the minute I set my feet down, I have no way to get off this island. And if you did fall and go to the previous level, this is a way that you would lose a lot of progress. But you do get mystery presents. Some of them help you. I'm running fast, doesn't help here, but rocket skates threw me right off the edge. But you go right back to the start flag. But listen to the soundtrack and the voice clips. They are quite good for the area and development that they are. But I'll be back in about a minute. We'll talk a little more about what ToeJam and Earl 3 could have been and what it currently is.
Hi, a present.
Sorry if I had to change the volume there a little bit too much. The volume in this game is unbalanced. If you do decide to play this, definitely keep your TV or whatever you're playing it on low, because some of the sound effects, not the soundtrack, will come out and clip the channels on you. And that's obviously just because it's pretty early in development. But I love the map system. I love all the power-ups using the Icarus wings again. And when you get the right power-ups, you'll see here we were able to find that elevator very quickly. And it's a little glitchy for sure. We just got affected while flying. But if you have power-ups on, you can't get into the elevator and you can kind of give yourself a little bit of a hard time. But that's what's fun about the game, is that it's not frustrating, but it's not easy. It's exactly like the original ToeJam and Earl was, which is to say that it can be maddeningly difficult, but you always want to continue to make progress. But again, since I didn't give you too much to listen to earlier, just listen to this snow level for just a bit. I love what they were doing with the soundtrack. It's that classic ToeJam and Earl.
Alright, one more time. Let's...
And this game can just be mean to you sometimes. You'll see there that I was hit by, a cupid and I was stuck in a love trance and I basically walked myself inadvertently right off a cliff because your controls 100% change. And you'll see here again, we can't get in the elevator till that power up wears off. And I don't know if the designers are going with this for the original game, but it kind of reminds me of Bill and Ted and the phone booth in that game. I'm sure it has nothing to do with it, but it's just an observation. But as far as how it looks on the Dreamcast, it's also just an impressive game, because obviously the Dreamcast was powerful for when it came out, but compared to the PlayStation 2, GameCube, things like that, it is definitely not as powerful. But we get a really nice draw distance into the background there, and the textures are really sharp. Dreamcast does like loading in texture quality as you run, and you'll see there that bridge. The textures do come in just like they would in Sonic Adventure, but it seems to be a better, higher quality version of that. But ToeJam looks great. He's made of tons of polygons, and I just love all the different presents you can get. Some of them are great, some of them are totally there just to mess you up, because you'll see here, I got a randomizer, and I just lost all the different types of presents I had, and if you had a lot of good stuff, it would be really bad. If you had a lot of bad stuff, it would be really good. So you really have to be conservative and wonder, do I want to open a present? Do I want to use it now? Do I want to open a question mark one? I got chocolate and that's great, but this is stale bread and I lost 10 seconds. I don't think that's really fair. That bread looked fresh to me, but really what can I say? But if you've never played a ToeJam and Earl game, definitely at least play the first one. The one on the Xbox, ToeJam and Earl 3, is also pretty decent, even if the reviews aren't good for it. And honestly, you can probably just completely skip ToeJam and Earl 2, but leave me a comment if you like that game and explain why, because I've never really understood it. But again, just a really fun thing to check out on Dreamcast, and those rocket skates, just don't use them. They totally always make me fall off the edge. Short of that, I will be back next Tuesday with an episode in our Dreamcast series, but we'll have videos on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday as well. And I just love these spring shoes. And again, look at that draw distance in the background. Even though we're just flying up into the air and we're forcing the game engine to render a lot more, the frame rate's keeping pretty consistent, and that's impressive because this game didn't actually come out. But again, if you do decide to play it, just be warned that it loves to freeze. I don't think you're ever going to be able to see all of the content. I don't think anyone's worked on this to try to make it freeze less, and it is just random. Sometimes you'll get 15, 20 levels in, sometimes you'll end up getting 5 levels in, and you'll see right here as I go into that elevator, the game just 100% freezes. I added the audio in just so it didn't sound silent. Short of that, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye.